gotta flex now, boy. It's only win by default. Hey, taking off with the ring, ain't nothing left, man. We the kings, ran with the team, ran with the dream, ran with the one fan in the seats. Hey, I pay my dues, check the receipt. Looking at you, you already peaked. Way back then. You can't follow with my tracks, man. I was last in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up.
Won't stop going till a player on top know it. Rooftop, penthouse, suite. If you really want it, gotta own it. Fought through it, we was at the lowest. Blood, sweat, tears, the components. Riding all year, now's the moment. We are not friends, we are opponents. Yeah, I'm coming for mine. Yeah, I'm making a play, the game on the line. Yeah, I've been on the grind. Yeah, I jump in the spot, I made it my time. Yeah, look in the sky. Yeah, the stars align, no shade to shine. Can't stop it already. Emotional work and devotion. We put in this time. Look, you won't stop. Back, might have took an L, we don't count that though. Remember back, we was down bad, now the way we looking, gotta doubt that. I know you see the way we moving, giving game, better listen like a student. Don't talk bad it, be about it, do it. Look here, really ain't nothing to it. I got proof for you like tenfold. Always down for the team, 10 toes. You been hater, we been no. Won't quit till I'm in the end zone. Won't stop till I hit the goal line. Never been the one to need a cosign. Can't stop it already, emotional work and devotion. We put in this bedtime, look. You won't stop.
At the end, I'll be there waiting for the rest. I don't take pity on the man who couldn't keep up with my best. No contest, no. You won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine.
Many folks ain't never heard of me, so I'ma introduce myself.
Yeah. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I've been gone. I know you see, I got the
Six races in, and the second road course race awaits the field. A type of race that only continues to bring new winners and a stage known as America's National Park of Speed. Live from Virtual Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, we welcome you to the second road course race of the season and round 6 of season 5 of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series with our coverage live on MaxSpeedTV. Again, happy that you're with us. We had a little bit of a 2-week break, but we are finally back for 2023, where alongside Francisco Bacchiao atop the broadcast booth here at Road America, my name is Kenneth Bueno. And Francisco, we took a little bit of a break, obviously, for the holiday season, for the brand new year. We kick off 2023 with a type of race that has eluded us for a while, one that has excited us each and every time we go to this type of track. Road courses have been somewhat the most exciting part of the series, even though we probably didn't expect it. Last season brought us a lot of fantastic finishes, a lot of great strategy races, and as we come back to Road America after a fantastic battle the first time around between Lance Hill and Lawson Peel, we sure are in, Francisco, for yet again another great race here from Wisconsin.
Yeah, very happy to be here up in the north. To start off the brand new year, Kenneth, I'm very excited for what 2023 has to offer us in 4 Wide and all leagues we cover as well. So let's hope that these guys can give us a good show to start the year off right. And you mentioned it, we're at the National Park of Speed, the North American Monza, if you will. And these guys last year put on a show, especially Austin Reedy, Lawson Peel, Lance Hill, the race winner. We had a great battle for the lead all race long. Strategy came into the mix, and eventually there was late race contact that led to Lance Hill being able to keep the lead and eventually get the win. So we'll see if somebody's able to replicate that kind of performance or if it'll be the same familiar faces we saw last year.
And of course, we talk about road courses, and we talk about Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Road America. This is the second time ever in the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series that this track is featured on the schedule. 4.048 miles, 6.5 kilometers, open all the way back in 1966, and has some history with NASCAR, obviously, in the old times when NASCAR used to race here. Then a long break before 2021. Not going to be on the schedule for 2023, unfortunately, but this track, although it is very long, it has a lot of different types of corners, a lot of elevation changes, and with this next-gen car, going to provide for a very interesting challenge. And for challenges, we do talk about these road courses on tap of the schedule, but we also have to talk about every other race in the calendar, including the one from 1 week ago, or rather 2 weeks ago. That was Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Waved the green flag with Brandon Banks and Steven Stempien at the very front row. But Francisco, this race provided us with a lot of exciting racing, a lot of fun, a lot of multi-groove action. You could go from all the way to the bottom of the racetrack to all the way to the outside wall and get a run. We saw some contact, we saw some chaos like we saw here with Xander Short hitting the outside wall, a lot of drivers getting loose. Tires were very important in this race as well, but it was Colin Forster, we call him Clutch Colin now, being able to take the lead away and ended up with a win. As you watch early in the race, this is a pass for the lead, Austin Reedy on Brandon Banks early on.
Yeah, and one of the most important points in that race was late in the race when green flag pit stops were starting to become an issue, where guys had to come down pit road with about 20 laps to go. A yellow comes out in the middle of the green flag cycle, traps guys a lap down or forces them to have to take the wave around under that caution. Guys that stayed out hoping to get a yellow were caught a lucky break, and they were able to get a way better finish. And Colin Forster was one of those guys. He stayed out there, and he benefited out of that. So it was a great strategy call by him, but also he had great speed all night. So he was given the track position and took advantage of it, and he was able to come away with a race win. So we'll see if Colin can keep some momentum going. He's not too shabby on these road courses either, Kenneth. We'll see if he can get himself a top 5 here tonight.
And to look at some of the extra highlights from the race before, Colin was able to grab that win. A huge crash on the back straightaway. There were the 2 Hot Wheels cars that involved the 33, I believe, of Tyler Warner, the 71 of Curtis Kelly. He was a battle for the lead around halfway. This was Austin Reedy under his Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate, Kyle Benson. A lot of them led laps in this race. Unfortunately, though, they really wore off the tires later in the run. That was Steven Stempien back in 3rd place. And then you saw another bit of contact, this time with Rodney Roberts hitting the outside wall, exit turn 4. And that brought out a caution, but everybody back together and basically set us up for that run all the way to the end of the race in that checkered flag. Here was another bit of contact that happened to bring us a caution. This was Xander Short and Jesse Prees getting into contact at the exit of turn 4 as Short was trying to exit pit road. A lot of damage to Short, who, by the way, we saw earlier in the race get a bit of contact with the outside wall. Here was a pivotal restart inside 15 laps to go. Colin Forrester, Cedric Hunter in row number 1. Forrester was able to move away from the rest of the field. Kelly ended up settling for P2, and then came a crash, a big one with 2 laps to go on a restart. Big crash, 5 wide. They went on the back straightaway. This was the look from high above as they were exiting turn 2. I think all of our jaws were on the floor by the time this happened. We knew it wasn't going to work, though, and Joe Sanchez in the middle of all of that went hard into the inside wall and basically set us up for the final restart. Here was the look on board with Sanchez, getting a piece with AJ Green and then just slamming into the wall, bringing a couple of other cars with him, but it was Colin Forrester on some of the older tires in the field, hanging on, picking up his 2nd win and his 7th career 4-Wide Racing Cup Series victory, and able to burn it down from Las Vegas, and that was a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if he can do it all over again. Drivers are already behind the iRacing official pace car, which means it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight in our 2nd road course race of season number 5. Lance Hill, already fresh off of the defending win here at Road America, starts at the very same place he finished a couple of months back. He lines up on pole with a 2:11.764. He will have Austin Riddy, also road course winner from Dakota, just 1 season ago, on his outside in that first row to the green flag. Kyle Ensign will be P3 with a 212.005. He will have the Los Angeles, California native of Daniel Michel to his outside in the 2nd row. AJ Green, the season 3 champion, rolls off inside the top 5. Joe Sanchez will be alongside him in P6 before you find the drivers doubled up in row number 4. Colin Forrester, the winner from Las Vegas a couple of weeks back, trying to go 2 in a row, and Adam Alashire to his outside in P8 in the 91. Jaden Porter, a driver very stout on these road courses as we've seen as of late. He starts inside of row number 5. Tristan Bailey, Francisco will be the final driver inside your top 10.
Craig Lounslocker is going to be the one to line up in P11 with Christopher Bishop, who puts in a solid effort there. And I believe this is towards the tail end of the timesheets, because from here on back, it is guys that have not set a lap time. Lawson Peel, who started in the back at Watkins Glen, will start 13th due to a few guys taking time. Jesse Prees will be alongside him in the 14th position. Brandon Banks will be in 15th with Kevin D'Elia next to him in the 16th position. Looking on back for Curtis Kelly, who's in the 17th position, with Brandon Gillis making a return here in the 18th position. Tony Kivit's going to be in the 19th position with league owner Tyler Murray right next to him in that number 16, starting 20th.
And the final 2 drivers in this grid, row number 11, Scott Healy in the 64, Michael Newbraw alongside him in dead last. And like you said, Francisco, a heap of drivers not taking time in qualifying, and also remarkably, a rather short field. We saw at Las Vegas over 35 cars. Not the case this time around from the road course here at Road America. So may thin the field out a little bit. We may see those strategy become the largest factor in today's race. We go for 36 laps, just over, I believe, 145 kilometers, or rather 145 miles, 234 kilometers here from Road America. This is a very long track. We do have a caution at halfway, so much like the one we had at Watkins Glen a couple of weeks back, we will have a caution bring the field together once we get to that half mark section, and then we'll wrap them up and then bring them all back to the green flag and have them race all the way to the finish. It is a beautiful day here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. 79 degrees in the air, 95 on the track temp, so a little bit slick, but not as slick as it could be here in the Northeast. We go from southeast to the winds at 8 miles an hour, and partly cloudy conditions overhead the skies in Sim. So a beautiful day to go racing in Francisco. Safe to say, no surprise that Lance Hill is at the front of this field to start. He was the driver who won this race, led a race high 32 laps the last time we were here, so a lot of expectations, maybe some pressure for the driver behind the wheel of that number 1 machine to try to get his 2nd career 4-Wide Racing Cup Series victory. But just before we go green, any keys to getting to victory lane at a track like this with these cars?
The most important factor in trying to win the race is limit your mistakes. That happens to be on pit road and on the track as well. We saw Reedy make a mistake on pit road at Watkins Glen. It ultimately costed him the win. He was able to drive back to 2nd place, Kenneth, but You cannot make those mistakes. There's too many good drivers in this series that can go out there and win these races. And if you give them free opportunities at track position, you're just not going to have the time to make it up. So keep it clean and keep it on the racetrack. It's a long 4-mile road course, many opportunities to go off track and into the grass or sand. If you can keep it between the white lines, you might stand a chance to find yourself in a good spot. Up the hill they'll climb as the field will face the flag stand, waiting for the green flag to be waved to start the race here. And there you see Barney the Flagman's going to get ready to wave the flag. We're underway in 2023. So far, Kenneth, so clean here through the first couple of corners, but last season the trouble spot was right up ahead, going down into this turn 5 as the field navigates its way through this straightaway section into the first real braking zone past turn 1. At the front of the field, a couple of lockups going on around that 5th position, able to navigate it through as we also look back to the further back portions of the field. A couple guys locking up going wide, but no incidents this time, Kenneth. Everybody able to keep it clean.
Everybody able to escape trouble, especially down that hill. That's Daniel Michel getting a little loose going up the hill. And it looks like Joe Sanchez is going to pick off 2 spots to begin. Michel going to get a nip of the grass that time by. And Sanchez slides into 4th, and AJ Green locked it up at the entrance of turn 5. And back out this time, but we'll look at the carousel. He will bring in the 99 of Colin Forster, all of them single file, but an easy first half lap for Lance Hill, Austin Reedy, Kyle Benson, your current top 3. And by the way, look at the drivers 2nd and 3rd, Francisco. I know it's already the opening lap, but similar faces to the ones that we saw at Watkins Glen not too long ago. Reedy and Benson, some of the fastest cars on the short run. Obviously, it didn't work out for them in the long run, coupled with the strategy and with some of the penalties they accrued midway through the race. But already a lot of speed behind those 2 Camaros, and Bowtie actually locking out your top 3 as Hill going to get out of Canada corner without any problems. Going to go back up the hill. We'll go for turn 14, and we'll complete lap number 1.
It's been a solid opening lap from everybody in the field, able to keep it nice and clean. No real incidents on this first lap. Maybe some contact here and there, but nobody significantly off the track or spinning off course. So as we ride on board now with Lawson Peel, the winner from Watkins Glen earlier in the season. He started in the 12th position. It lists us at 13th, but I believe he's going to go for 9th position on Adam Alishire right in front of him. So already in the top 10 for Lawson Peel. And this is a track, Kenneth, where you'll see a lot more separation than they did at Watkins Glen. It's more technical of a racetrack. There's a lot more opportunities to make up ground with the braking. And excuse me, that wasn't Alishire. That was a different car. I made a mistake there. But that is still a position gain for the number 12. And he moves up into the 10th position now, actually, as he gets past Tristan Bailey. So you see the big gap he has ahead now to Alishire on just lap 1. So you can see there's a lot of separation that's going to go on here tonight, and that'll give guys opportunities to get into rhythms to really start nailing some good lap times.
But it's also going to be one driver's hitting the outside wall. That is Tristan Bailey, the driver who did get passed for P10 on the racetrack. We saw Lawson Peel go to the inside in turn 1. And Bailey might have either caught the grass or just got loose and lost the race car. Some heavy damage on the left side of his Camaro. And the TJ's Team Foundation, number 24, in trouble to start on lap number 2. We'll see exactly how this all began. Remember, that was the pass exit turn 1 by Lawson Peel. Looked like Kevin DeLeo on the backside trying to take position away. That's entering turn 3. And I think just overshot the corner, got loose, and then I think might have just gotten the grass here. Or maybe just contact, not exactly sure. Actually, right there, yes, caught the grass. Car got loose. And all of a sudden just directly pounded into the wall alongside. And Bailey with some trouble. We do have fast repairs given to every single driver in this 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. But like you said, Francisco, with the short field and how things thin out, and more trouble for Tristan Bailey, goes sideways again just before the entrance of the carousel. Moments like those are really going to punish. And it looks like Alishire in the same boat. Problems before the carousel as well.
Yeah, there's been some trouble on the second lap here, Kenneth. A couple of guys have had issues. Alishire was in trouble on the scoring grid. I believe Lauenslager and D'Elia made some contact shortly after the incident there with the 24. Going into turn 5 there, you're now seeing what happened to 91 of Alishire. He kind of goes a little bit wide, gets him loose, and with the cars, that the next-gen cars, the way they are, if you get them sideways, it's pretty impossible to save him, especially at such a low speed. So right there, you see now what happened to the 24, just tries to arc it too much. And fortunately for him, he's able to save it and keep it going in the right direction. And you see somebody stopped right in front of him, but doesn't want to be making that mistake too many times. As we look back at your leader, holding a steady enough lead right now over Austin Reedy. Reedy able to keep him honest right now. That one in the 96, you're working hard trying to see if they can sort of find where each other are, to see where the other's pace is. They're probably trying to figure out the car, let the tires come in, but also see if there's anything more they have in the tank to catch them, but not use it right now, right away. That would not be a good move. You normally want to see if the other guy can push a little bit more, if you have more in the tank, and if you're doing good enough with just that. We know we have the caution at lap 18, so guys will probably try and split the stage if we can, and try and see if we can go onto pit road safely and not make any mistakes for that caution flag. So most likely this first run is going to be a little bit tame. I would look for that second half to be a little bit more exciting.
These drivers are going to be conservative to start, no doubt about it, because you do not want to end in a situation where you make that mistake like a Tristan Bailey or an Adam Alashire, and all of a sudden you're dropping on the track position, you're plummeting through the running order, and it's going to be so tough. Obviously, the caution is going to help. That is that safety net for the field. So if mistakes do happen out of these drivers, they can use that caution to get back on track and be able to pick things up for the second half of the race. But because this field is so thin, because the gaps are so large at these road courses, because there's not cautions that happen quite frequently because of crashes on the track, you're going to have the distance overcome a lot of that strategy, and it's going to become an uphill battle very quickly. So for Tristan Bailey, for Adam Alashire, sitting 20th and 21st on the racetrack right now, out of the 22 that registered for the grid, it is going to be very tough for them to get back up through the race order. You look at Curtis Kelly, a little wide out of the carousel, and he's going to slam into Kevin D'Elia, exit of the kink. And that was as Scott Healy was going by, and Curtis Kelly, I figured Francisco was going to have some trouble as D'Elia goes hard into the wall alongside, and we'll get some tolling damage as a result of that. And more drama ensuing only on lap 3. There's a look at Kevin D'Elia's car, completely beached on the grass. And I was worried about the contact with the grass from Curtis Kelly. It's very slick, this grass is, especially with the recent iRacing update, and Kevin D'Elia getting a part of that. And unfortunately, he's going to have to tow it to pit road. We'll try and see exactly what might have happened.
And it started up in front of him, really, with the loose car of the 71 of Curtis Kelly. Kind of goes wide at the exit of the carousel, gets into the grass, and that opens the opportunity for Scott Healy to make a move at an awkward part of the racetrack at that. You see, going into the kink, they're side by side, and he tries to give him a lot of room, but in doing so goes very wide, and unfortunately, 53 of D'Elia has nowhere to go, runs right into him, gives himself some suspension damage. Kelly's able to continue also with suspension damage, and D'Elia, of course, would later spin and then pull the car into the garage. He's out of the race. He has exited the session, so he'll finish in 21st tonight. So now it narrows down the field to 20 cars here, Kenneth. And you mentioned it at the start, not as many as Las Vegas, but that is usually typical of most road courses in any league for that matter. Usually attendance will be just a little bit lower. Guys probably don't feel as confident, or they just don't feel like they have the ability to run all these laps at a track this technical. So they'll usually choose to sit it out. But the guys that do show up, they usually tend to perform and put on a good show.
Yeah, usually they are the road course ringers, as we would call it, as AJ Green goes wide. Exit of the left-hander. Looks like Daniel Micho might have also followed in the same track. Green going to be able to save it. That was a potential pass for P4 out of the racetrack. He was fighting that with Colin Forster. Green just trying to pick things up since the drop of the green flag, where he dropped those couple of positions in the first half lap, and bring in Lawson Peel, already up to P6, the driver who went to victory lane, Francisco, the last time we were at a road course at Watkins Glen, after starting, like I said, deep in the field in 24th. But Peel is no slouch at all at these road courses. You look at the last 4 starts that he's had in 4-wide racing cup competition, the results definitely show it. Second, and then a couple of weeks back where he was able to get that first place finish and that win at Watkins Glen in upstate New York. So safe to say, Peel is a road course driver through and through, although he's as dominant on the ovals as well. The 12 of Lawson Peel, absolutely a driver you cannot write off here at these left and right hand circuits, and this immediately shows it up to P5 early on. So a change in hands for the race lead. Austin Riddy is moved by Lance Hill. Might have been a mistake out of the driver of the 1, but Austin Riddy moves his way to P1. It looks like Kyle Benson might have also had a mistake, and Hill going to go wide at the entrance of turn 3 and will slide for the wall. Going to keep it out of the barrier, and Hill's going to be able to escape with a clean race car, but he's going to have to merge on the track, and here comes Forster, here comes Peel, and all of a sudden, Lance Hill, your pole sitter, in trouble as Austin Riddy continues to run away, and about 4.5 seconds to Joe Sanchez back in P2. And that's going to move Hill to P5. He's going to have to tussle with AJ Green there in the 48, the two drivers who were teammates at Stonks Motorsports 1 season ago. Two of them that pretty much lit the series on fire. AJ Green, a former series champion. Lance Hill, a former winner at this very track in this series. It looks like Hill going to have to really fight for his money right now as the field continues to weave through this left and right hand section of the course just before they get to the carousel here at Road America. One of the most famous corners in all of the racetrack. Right under that Johnsonville Speedboat Bridge, you'll have this very intricate carousel where you're really going to have to carry a lot of speed, carry a lot of the grip through the corner. It can be very easy to overshoot, and you're just trying to plant that throttle right about here when you get to that orange and red curving where you can really stamp on the throttle, be able to go for the king. Also one of the toughest parts of the racetrack where you have to slow down, you have to keep momentum wound up, and Lance Hill for the moment going to try to catch up to Lawson Peel. Colin Forster maybe in a battle for P3 entering Canada corner. Here comes the 12 with a big one, can't do anything with it. And so we'll follow back and may have another pass though, but they've already opened up the gap more than 11 seconds before you get to second place Joe Sanchez in the 55. And of course your race leader, Austin Riddy, in the number 96. So a lot of drivers already with some drama, but a lot of great racing so far to start. And we do talk about that halfway caution to lap 18. That is going to be the help for a lot of these drivers as Lance Hill gets inside of turn 14. We'll open the door here for AJ Green to make a move and won't do it. We'll back out, and they'll try to get some drafting help by the time they get all the way back to turn 1. Lap 18, it's going to be similar to the one that we had in the middle of the Watkins Glen race. We're going to have that caution, bring the whole field together. That should be the marker for most of the field to come down pit road. We should expect that to happen. We're not going to really see a lot of green flag stops happen. These guys can go all the way without having to take a full tank of fuel under green flag conditions. So that yellow flag will just basically be a reset for the entire field. It's not going to necessarily help guys like Austin Riddy, who's so far ahead of the field, but it will help everybody else. And for guys like Lawson Peel, for Forster, for Hill, everybody throughout the running order all the way back to P20, you're going to have all of them back in the race with an opportunity to change strategy, maybe have a little bit of fun by the time we get to that second half. And like Francisco said, turning up the aggression. We saw that happen in last season's race, most notably between the top two in Lawson Peel and Lance Hill, where they were able to work strategy. They found each other on the racetrack again, and they raced as hard as you can possibly do here at this track with this car to go all out for the win. There was a mistake in Canada corner, so unfortunately we weren't able to fully see the potential of that battle, but maybe we see another one. Maybe we see some more drivers added to the mix. Lance Hill, a huge send into the corner and almost about got the rear end of Colin Forster. He's going to stay behind, but Lance Hill, you can tell, desperate to get back to the front where he started this race on board with the one exiting the carousel.
This right here, Kenneth, is a very difficult part on the track. Even with the downforce these cars have, you can't really get too far sideways. But if you do it right, you can get a pretty good run and set yourself up for Canada corner. Lance Hill, familiar with this part of the racetrack. You see him a little bit late on the brakes. Going to get into the back of the 99 right there. Going to give him a little bit of a tap and try and see if you can get under him. Not really able to make that work. So good concentration and performance there from the 99 of Colin Forster to maintain under the pressure despite getting hit from behind. You see he's going to take a defensive line into the final corner. Lance Hill's going to try and cross him over. Forster with a good defense as Hill's going to spin the tires a little bit coming off the corner, and that should help Forster at least serve for now on this front straightaway, even though it's very long and he can draft up to him. As you see now from above, he's going to close the gap a little bit, but it won't be enough for turn 1. Forster survives for now.
So Forster going to hold on, but he is dealt with severe taps to the rear bumper by Hill. You can tell that Hill desperately wants to get around him, but just can't quite do it. Maybe it could be the moment entering turn 3. Hill going to dive on the brakes, going to try to slip the nose in, but just can't do it. And again, will fall back and remain in P4. They're going to bring in AJ Green, but what that has done, Francisco, is open the gap to Lawson Peel. Got away from all these guys, and all of a sudden, as they're battling, as Forster continues to hold Hill up lap after lap, Peel is only allowing himself to run away, and it could bring him just that little bit closer to the likes of Joe Sanchez and Austin Riddy, who have since taken control in this race. And Austin Riddy, there he is with a 6-second gap and growing. Last time by, set a 2:12.120. Sanchez with a 2:13.1. So Riddy already very quick as is. And this is definitely just characteristic of Austin Riddy, Francisco, one of the drivers that we can categorize as a double threat, much like Lawson Peel. You bring him on an oval, he's going to be fast. You put him on a road course, he's going to be just as fast, if not quicker. He's already got one road course win to his tally. That came at Circuit of the Americas in that amazing last lap battle where Peel went sideways at a turn 20, went around, and Austin Riddy moved by for the race win. But even then, bring in Watkins Glen this season and multiple other races on the calendar. Riddy is a driver to watch for on these road courses. He is very quick, and with the fact that these tires don't necessarily wear as much as they do on the ovals, Riddy can just be as aggressive as he can possibly be 150% of the time, and that allows him to be so fast.
These cars, in a way, they kind of race like open wheel cars in the sense that with the tires not wearing and all that, you can definitely go faster longer into the run than you could at the beginning of the run. So if you're able to keep that momentum, keep that consistency, and put lap after lap, you probably actually end up going faster later in the run. So you have to make sure you watch out for mistakes because your stuff will wear in terms of the brakes and all that. But with the going faster every single lap, you probably open yourself up to more opportunities to make that mistake. You can go a little bit deeper in the corner, you might lock up, there's just more mistakes that can be made in that situation. So you have to pace yourself and probably aim for the same lap time in these cars considering the situation. So you have the lead, you're Austin Riddy, you're up by 7 or so seconds on Joe Sanchez. You are inherently faster than Sanchez. We've seen him at these road courses consistently drive faster. I would try and match Joe Sanchez at the moment until Joe Sanchez gets passed by Lawson Peel. Then I would try and pick the pace back up because you have an 11.5 seconds or so on Lawson Peel. Don't need to do anything to make a mistake and cost yourself the lead.
And mistakes are very crucial at these road courses. You talk about on the ovals. Maybe if you mess up a corner, you go a little wide, sure, you're going to lose time. But at these road courses, especially with the slickened grass that iRacing updated not too long ago, any type of mistake is going to be dire in your run for position up at the front or to extend the gap for the driver right behind you. We've seen that become a very big factor. A lot of drivers have already slipped into the grass so far this evening, including the driver of the one sitting in P5. That's why he's back here in the first place. And so you really have to watch out for that. With these next-gen cars, they don't necessarily really forgive you for the mistakes at all, whether you go sideways or whether you go wide in the corner, as Lance Hill will again deal the bumper to the back end of the 99. Again, Francisco, these two former teammates, the one of Lance Hill ended up moving over to what is now known as the Trackhouse Racing Group with the likes of the 91 of Adam Alashire, sort of a two-car team, and Hill's going to go sideways at the exit of the carousel. We'll grab the grass and we'll go for a spin. We'll again keep it out of the wall, and we'll keep the car unscathed. But that is, again, heavy lost track position. And once again, Francisco, a mistake is king in the scenario.
It's the key to the race, Kenneth. You can't make these mistakes and expect to win. We saw him make one that cost him the lead. We see him make another one that's going to cost him his position inside the top 5, trying to limit the damage from the first mistake. So right here, going out of the carousel, just tries to get too much, gets into that grass that you were talking about, and just loses the back end, and you cannot save it. With these cars, you just cannot save that. And around he goes. Fortunately, he doesn't hit anything, so he has no damage. The only damage is done is track position.
And also got in a best part of the track as well. A lot of space. There's sort of an extra little chicane there. By the time you exit the carousel, that's a different part of this Road America circuit, a different configuration. So luckily found that part of the track where he can go sideways, went around. Fortunately, was able to escape any damage from the wall. And unlike Kevin D'Elia, will continue in this race, although Lance Hill drops all the way to P7 and in a league all of his own. Scott Healy behind him, a couple of seconds back. Daniel Micho in front of him, 3.5 seconds in front. So the mistakes only continue to pile on for Lance Hill, and a driver who's very fast in this race. And it's just the mistakes have really kept him back. As you take a look at Austin Riddy right now at a 5.7 second gap to Joe Sanchez back in second. That lead, Francisco, has definitely stifled down. It was growing dramatically at one point in the race. It was up to 6 seconds at one point, but Austin Riddy looks like may have just dialed things down, maybe had a little bit of mistakes, maybe just overshot a couple of corners and got a little bit too greedy. And so Sanchez slowly but surely reeling in this gap. And Sanchez as well, Francisco, a driver that we've seen so quick. here in this 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, whether it's from where he started in the couple of seasons back or even this season where he led a lot of laps at Daytona, could not get the W, then obviously in contention for wins week after week after week and still has yet to knock down that checkered flag. Road courses are also races where Sanchez is, again, much like on the ovals, very quick, and Sanchez could be looking potentially, if he can get around Austin Reedy, have a great race from here on out at what might be his first win of the season. He'll be the 4th different driver to go to victory lane in Season 5 and to finally knock off something that has been weighing on his shoulders for a while. It's tough to be consistent, be so close to the win so many weeks on end, and not get one. Sanchez trying to reverse course, change history, and possibly lock himself into the playoffs tonight at Road America if he can.
And he'll have his work cut out for him because look at the driver behind him who's continuing to close in. It's that 12 of Lawson Peel. These two fast food restaurants are trying to see if they can find themselves in a battle for P2. The Chick-fil-A machine closing down in on the In-N-Out Burger machine. Lawson Peel, the winner at Watkins Glen, has won multiple road course races, has been very dominant since the series has moved over to these next-gen cars. He's gotten a quick grab of it and knows exactly what he has to do and knows exactly where to place the car to perform at its absolute best. And he just continues to show it every single week, Kenneth. He's had 7 wins last year. I believe his tally's already up to, 2 or 3 this season. So he's on a remarkable pace, and that's without mentioning the 2 he grabbed in his rookie season. Not the full year, that is, but when he first started running races with the last year of the Gen 6s. So Lawson Peel has been on an incredible run, and it's continuing to show if he's able to put this one together.
And he's the all-time wins leader as well in 4-Wide Racing Cup Series history, a total of 11 wins on his tally, and most of them, a bulk of them, come from last season. A little mistake here, overshooting turn 5 of the downhill section of the course, but it looks like it won't affect him that much as he continues to reel in. Joe Sanchez might have a fantastic battle for P2 by the time we get closer and closer to our first and only caution at the halfway mark, lap number 18. Second on that list is Colin Forster on the all-time wins category, and he remains in P4. AJ Green, Daniel Michel, the 2 Camaros right behind him, 5th and 6th. So this may be another battle worth watching. We saw Lance Hill, Francisco really creep up to the back end of Colin Forster's machine, but really could not shake him at all. And Forster has been putting up very consistent laps throughout here as we approach lap number 11 on this run under Green. He's got AJ Green, Daniel Michel right behind him, so cannot make any mistakes. And Forster, a driver already with 2 wins on the calendar, his most recent coming at Las Vegas, so a driver comfortable in the playoffs. But Francisco, these consistent finishes are only going to help. Obviously, when you're locked in, you don't have to worry about points racing, but to put up top 5s, to put up top 3s, to just run up at the front each and every week, gauge your competition is very good. And Forster holding on defensively against AJ Green and Daniel Michel heading for Canada corner.
People tend to forget about these leagues, Kenneth, is that you get bonus points, bonus playoff points for the higher you finish in the point standings in the regular season. So these top 5s and top 10 finishes, all these good results that you get consistently will put you higher in the standings, which in the long term doesn't mean much because the points reset, but you do get a higher bonus. Let's look at him get sideways off the final corner. He's trying to defend against AJ Green. AJ has to check up a little bit, so that's going to punch all 3 and go against 1. But if you can consistently deliver and get high enough in the points, you give yourself bonuses without necessarily having to win. Of course, winning would help that, as here we see now a dive, maybe gets the inside of Forster, no, and it's going to be the 25 of Forster to see if he can find a way around AJ Green, at least putting on a good battle. But that's right, Kenneth, if you look at any league, if you're able to get in the top 5 points at the end of the regular season, usually you get a good amount of playoff points that could carry you the rounds. Obviously, like I said, you have to win. You probably need to get at least 1 to really stand a chance. But those bonus points, they definitely help out.
And it's pivotal. It's an extra cushion so far as, let's say you have a mistake in the middle of the playoffs, you have those points to rely on and have that little bit of a soft spot to at least give yourself more of a buffer between the rest of the competition and yourself. Right now, Forster has no buffer, though, between himself and AJ Green, because Green has been very aggressive, set up a pass for turn 1, couldn't do it, a very difficult part of the track to make a pass complete, looked for turn 5, couldn't fully pull the trigger there either, so looks like Forster going to hold on for P4. We continue to watch this 3-way battle for the inside of the top 5, and Lance Hill on the background of all of this in P7, so we may see Lance Hill, as fast as he's been all race long, despite the mistakes, may catch back up to this trio and may might put up a quartet fitting in a battle for P4. Here's a look at Lawson Peel, now less than a second away from Joe Sanchez for P2. Like I said, Francisco, the two fast food machines going at it with each other on the racetrack. Not the first time we've seen these two go toe-to-toe out of the racetrack in this series, most notably this season. The cookout machine for Sanchez, the Chick-fil-A machine for Lawson Peel, and a cookout, a very, very popular restaurant, most notably in the Southeast. I've heard in North Carolina, it's very popular. A lot of people enjoy it. I've been told to try it. Francisco, I don't know if you've even tried it. I don't even know if it's any good. I'm not sure. I've seen a couple of them. I've never even tried them, but Sanchez is making it look good right now up front.
I mean, I've heard of Cookout. They sponsor the Southern 500 nowadays after Bojangles left, but I've heard of Cookout. They're very popular in the Carolinas and even Georgia and all that. Because we have a car on pit road, the 71 Kelly. He just made a mistake now off the final corner, so I'm not sure if he's coming in. So guys might come in before the stage end to make sure they have enough fuel to get there. But going back to your saying, Kenneth, I've not tried Cookout, but I can only speak for what I truly love, and you'll know this. I can speak for Wawa. Wawa's amazing. Unfortunately, not too many states have Wawa in them. Only the Northeast and Florida. They are coming to the Midwest. Ohio getting some locations open up this year. So if you ever have a Wawa in your state, go to it. They have amazing food, and you got your first taste of Wawa thanks to me at the Homestead MaxSpeedTV. So you're welcome.
You know what? I'm sure at some point in this season, you're probably going to either race a race in this series where you're sponsored by a Wawa car, or you're just going to find a driver to sponsor with Wawa on the race car before. But make it more of a fast food conglomerate chain battle on the racetrack like we already have with Sanchez and Lawson Peel out on the racetrack at the moment. You saw Colin Forster. The reason why we're showing him on screen right now is because he has dropped to P7. Remember, he was holding on for P4, and there might have just been a dire mistake out of that 99, the first one that we've seen out of him all race long. This is entering turn 3, Francisco, a place that Lance Hill also went wide in and tapped the grass, and just got a little too eager entering the brakes on the corner of the car. He immediately stepped out, and you could see it early before he even fully entered the corner. Almost got into Lance Hill on the merge back, and then dropped those couple of spots. So Colin Forster down to P7 on the running order, lap 12.
Yeah, it was a bit of a late break there and kind of stepped out away from him. And actually speaking now, Kenneth, we just had a pass for P2. Lawson Peel's just gotten past the 55 of Joe Sanchez in Canada corner. So now Lawson Peel has moved up into second. He's not too far behind Austin Reedy. So we'll see how much of a gap he can get up to the race leaders. You see more cars are coming down pit road. This is about what we saw last year. Usually about lap 12 or so, we saw guys coming in, making their stop. And there he is, actually. There's Austin Reedy making that pit stop right now. He's going to try and see if he can split it. That's a strategy we might see, Kenneth. We could see guys pit now and stay out at the stage break and still get that one stop in afterwards, because you still have, regardless of how you slice it up, you probably have to come down pit road one time in that final segment. So if you can still play your strategy and stay out under the caution, not give up the track position, you're probably better off doing that. Eliminate any penalties like we saw the 96 do at Watkins Glen. Don't come down under caution and force and get yourself an unforced penalty. So you might see guys stick to the strategy of splitting it into thirds.
And the last thing you want to do as well, Francisco, is hurt your track position by the time you get to halfway. If you have a couple of drivers come in at this stage of the race, like we're seeing this group do right now, Lance Hill, AJ Green, Colin Forster, let's say if you stay out, you go for pit road at the caution, everybody else behind you stays on the racetrack, they're going to be at the front. It's going to be so tough to gain all that track position at a track that's relatively hard to pass at under the green flag circumstance in the second half of the race. There's AJ Green coming out for his stop. Lance Hill, Colin Forster to follow right behind him. And Forster actually overshot his pit stall, so lost a little bit of time there. So some extra injury there to the 99. And it looks like he'll maintain where he is track position-wise, but he will be a couple of seconds behind Lance Hill by the time they merge back onto the racing surface. So with Austin Reedy heading for pit road, he falls to P5. That moves Lawson Peel to the race lead. Maybe a potential strategy, Francisco, to do what I just said. Stay out until the caution comes out, and then lose the track position at the first stop of the race. We know tires aren't necessarily the biggest factor in this race. For sure, fuel is going to be the marker that we'll count on all race long. So maybe track position, and maybe Lawson Peel's not quite afraid of it, despite the fact that he started pretty deep in the field and Lawson Peel going to hold on to the lead as we approach lap number 14 of 36. Joe Sanchez and Daniel Micho, the drivers sitting second and third. We'll see if Peel ends up peeling off to the right, that little access road going up the hill. Looks like Peel's going to do so. Joe Sanchez, will he follow? Answer is yes. So top two heading for pit road, lap 13.
Yeah, they can't make it the full stage, Kenneth. We saw that last year. That guys tried to do it into thirds, but that plays best into the hands of how the fuel fill works out. With the 75%, you can maybe go 14 laps at best. And obviously, we know that the yellow comes down on 18, so good luck trying to save 4 laps on what's already a pretty short fuel window here. So you're going to have guys coming in on pit road now and stay out at the stage. It's probably most of the fuel is going to do. Maybe somebody at the back will decide to come back in anyways because they don't have much to lose. Get that little bit of extra fuel, take less under green. You could see that happening. A lot of guys taking 4 tires, Kenneth. Does this surprise you considering what we know of the tire model on iRacing, or are they doing this so that they don't have to take tires on their last stop?
It may just be, it's a surprise to me, certainly. I wouldn't expect these drivers to come down for tires on pit road just because that extra grip isn't really going to help you all too much, but maybe it's just to burn the tire sets. I'm not exactly sure. We've seen a lot of drivers come in for 14, 15-second stops. You look at Austin Reedy, who will most likely shuffle to the race lead by the time Daniel Micho on the 25 comes for pit road, 14.7 seconds. Lawson Peel, who just got out of pit road, exiting turn 3, 14.4. AJ Green, probably the only driver under that mark, probably took 2 tires, 11.8. And then you look at Lance Hill and Colin Forster, 15.1. Forster, same deal as AJ Green, 11.5. So maybe just be some tire set calls just to get them out of the way. But certainly a surprise, Francisco, that we've seen tires be used on pit road by the entire field. Danny Micho getting a little loose coming out of that left-hander that's coming downhill. It's going to enter the carousel. And so we're waiting for that 25 to pull the trigger, bite the bullet, and head for the pit lane here as we approach the final 4 laps before our halfway mark at lap number 18. So, Francisco, with the drivers in majority coming down pit road just before we enter this halfway break, how do we see this race change in that second half? Do we expect a lot more aggression on strategy? Do we expect a lot more aggression for track position early to get ahead on strategy? What do you see forthcoming in this race by the time we get that yellow and when we get that pivotal restart?
You're definitely going to see guys try to make the passes on their own on the racetrack because the strategy's straightforward. These guys are probably going to come back down pit road, say around lap 25 on average, because that's how the fuel will work out. That's when you go long enough on this run and can still make it on the final run of the race with the checkered flag. So I doubt many people, especially at the front, will come in under this yellow flag here in about 5 laps or so. As there you see Daniel Micho finally come in at the end of lap 14. So he went the longest, about that 14th lap, which I mentioned. So we'll see what he does in the second half of the race. It might decrease his stop time if he decides to take no tires. But Reedy will shuffle back to the race lead. And as I was saying moments ago, I think guys will definitely try and battle each other, especially in that first lap or two of the restart, for positions, because that's most likely going to be the race. If you don't get those positions right then and there, you might get held up by a couple of cars, you might lose track position, make mistakes while battling, and if you do that right then and there, you've probably given up a lot of opportunities for your chance to maybe get a race win, like we saw Lance Hill do earlier. If he wants to win this race, Kenneth, he cannot do what he did in those opening 10.
And we saw under green flag circumstances just how wild the punishments are. If you end up in a mistake, you slide into the grass, that loses you a lot of time. And like we talked about, those iRacing updates that slicken the grass, it has become a very big part of road course racing on the sim, most notably with the stock cars, because what used to be somewhat of a penalty, obviously, because you're entering the grass, you're losing time, it became much worse when you slickened off the grass, because what becomes a very savable race car in the grass at first, it's now an unsavable race car, at least when you look at how it is right now. We saw what happened to Lance Hill twice. We saw what happened to Curtis Kelly, Kevin D'Elia, what happens when you enter the grass, just how dire the consequences are for you. So you're right, track position is going to be key. And that's probably why you're going to see a little bit of the chaos entering turn 1 as Lance Hill goes way wide, taking the Mitchell DeYoung line, entering turn 5 and going downhill. That's a part of the track where a lot of drivers try to use all that asphalt on the right side of the track as possible. It's not considered an off track on the sim, so you can use that pavement. It's free real estate, so you can use it for as much momentum to arc yourself into that corner. And you look at Road America entirely, Francisco, and we've been watching these drivers put in lap after lap after lap. It is a very tough track to race. You talk about a lot of the elevation changes that you have here at this track. A lot of the flat nature of this track also kind of helps in as well, because you don't have some banking or any little bit of undulation to assist you while you're going into the corners. You look at a lot of quick kinks, a lot of very slow corners, a lot of very interesting ones as well, some right angles, 90-degree angles as well. So there's a lot of different challenges presented here at Road America, and like you said at the top of the show, a very technical track. So mistakes, we've seen them often here in this race so far, but I mean, it also could be the track. It's a very tough one to race, and one that is very awfully difficult to master as well.
It's actually one of the things I like about road racing, Kenneth. It's the fact that you have a challenge almost every single instant that you're driving the car, and it doesn't matter which car you are driving, whether it's an open wheel car, a stock car, a sports car. It could be anything. If you're racing on a road course, it can be really fun, especially if you have the hang of it, but it could be really miserable if you just can't wrap your head around what you're supposed to do. So there's usually those two sort of schools of thought when it comes to road courses. I'm on the former side, that is. I enjoy running road course races. I really have fun out there. I'm not usually the fastest, but I usually end up in the top 5 or 10, so I give myself a bit of a pat on the back there for that. And it's just fun. It tends to be a little bit of a turnoff for some guys. It's when you get these large gaps, these large separations, which will get close with caution flags. But this normally does happen. You have guys that are just naturally better at it than others, and it's more exploited the bigger the track is, the more braking zones you have, because that's where the time difference is. That's why at Watkins Glen you don't really see that many, because guys grew up racing Watkins Glen on the video games, and even on the sim, it's just not too many braking zones, so not too many opportunities for one to lose time in. You get a real technical track like this, and that's exactly where you're going to see a lot of big gaps, especially if you're stuck behind somebody. It's going to be very hard to pass. You could probably compare it to Monaco in Formula One. If you get stuck behind somebody and you're in a faster car, good luck trying to get by them. You're simply not. You're going to lose a lot of time.
It's very tough to make passes here at Road America. You see Joe Sanchez going a little wide, and that's a car way sideways in the grass, and Daniel Michel going off track as well. That's the 6 of Michael Newbraw in trouble, parked the car, and is going to try to merge back safely. That's Lance Hill in the 1, going by Colin Forster a couple of seconds behind. Luckily, no significant damage to Michael Newbraw, currently running in P16 right now on the racetrack as of lap 16. But he's fortunately able to pick things back up, and doesn't look like any damage on his Chevy Camaro, so he's able to continue without any problems. But you were talking about the magic of road course racing, and I see the same. A lot of magic in racing in these types of tracks because it's so tough, and unlike a lot of the ovals where, yeah, you've got its challenges, but you've got a simple thought where it's just turn left and try to get momentum off of turn 2 and turn 4. Here it's very different. You've got many different types of corners that you have to memorize, that you have to get right, that you have to master every time you go around. And every time around, even if you get into it with them, you can still be privy to a mistake. It is very easy to do so, and that's why racing while at these road courses is such a beautiful thing, whether it's a NASCAR stock car or an IMSA WeatherTech sports car prototype or GT car or an open wheel series car like, you know, Formula One or IndyCar. You're going to see the beauty of road course racing step out, and also look at the expansion of road course racing for stock car racing and sim racing as a whole. NASCAR, a long time ago, just only went to 2 road course races, and that was it. Sonoma and Watkins Glen. Now you look at Road America was added to the schedule. The Charlotte Roval has been added. Sonoma, obviously, and Watkins Glen returning, but they're adding Circuit of the Americas. They're adding the Indy road course, and that has followed the same, Francisco, in this series. Back in Season 2, we only had 2 road course races, and that was the Charlotte Roval, race number 14, and then earlier in the season at the Daytona road course in race number 5. Compare that to a staggering 5 or 6 road courses on this season's calendar with Watkins Glen, Road America, Sonoma, the Indy road course, Circuit of the Americas, the Charlotte Roval coming up soon on race number 9. The expansion in road course racing, and I think the appreciation of road course racing and the beauty of it has certainly come to the minds of many, including those at the 4Wide Racing Cup Series. So it's awesome to see these road course races. And also, last season, can you ignore the great races we had last season? They were unbelievable.
Every single one of them. We cannot pick a favorite in each of those races, and we can't pick out a bad one. It looks like Joe Sanchez made a mistake there. He's going to drop a spot there to AJ Green. But you said it, Kenneth. Every road course race last season had a flair to it that just made it special. And it didn't have to be the battle for the lead. It didn't have to be the first couple of guys. All throughout the field, we saw great racing and just great moments that made you at least want to keep watching, because it's no secret that when it comes to these road courses, it's sometimes very tough to watch, especially if it's a lot of spread out and nobody really racing each other, especially for the viewers. But if you get a race like one we have today, like ones we had last season, as there's the caution flag for the halfway point, you get races like those, and it keeps you invested. It keeps you wanting to keep watching the race and see what unfolds next. And that's honestly the best we can hope for, and that's what we hope to be able to deliver to everybody that watches races, because we know that the better the race is, the more likely guys are going to want to watch it. They're going to rewatch and just watch it over and over again, and that's exactly where we make our money, if you will.
So caution out at lap number 18, our halfway mark of tonight's race from Road America. We talked about a lot of the excitement that we've seen in four-wide racing road course history. Can we see it level up here in the second half of this race? Austin Riddy ahead after the first half. We'll take a short break, but you won't miss a thing. We continue our coverage of race number 6 in season 5 of the four-wide racing cup series right here on MaxSpeedTV.
Experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Wanted the best, you got him for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Welcome back to coverage of Race 6 in Season 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series live from Virtual Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. At our halfway break at lap number 18, Kenneth Bueno and Francisco Bacalhau along with you for the ride. We've been covering all of the strategy and some of the chaos here in this first half. Ready for the second as Austin Riddy has led us through and through. He holds on to the lead with Lawson Peel and AJ Green completing your top 3. So Francisco, we've seen a lot of changes in track position. We've seen a lot of changes in strategy. It was only one pit stop by a majority of the field, so we most likely won't expect them to come down this time by under yellow. But what notes did you take away most notably from that first half in the opening 18?
Well, the most obvious and glaring one is Lawson Peel is fast once again, and that's no new news on road courses. He's winning in P2 after starting in P13. Calmly made his way up through the field and is now sitting behind your race leader. And these two, the top two, have given us some crazy battles throughout the last couple of road course races. Unfortunately for Reedy, last time out he made a mistake under this very point in the race when he came down pit road and had a speeding penalty, took him to the back of the field, worked his way up to second, but was just short of that number 12. That 12 looks pretty fast. I don't think he's going to make that same mistake today, as we already did open the pit road, so everybody should be good to go. They'll take the 1 to green when they get back to the line, and we'll be a lap away from racing. But at least now Reedy feels that he has a little bit more control over this one compared to that mistake he made back at the Glen a couple months ago. And
definitely that call on pit road, that penalty, you could argue that was the changing moment of the race that took Austin Riddy out of contention, because while yes, he had a very fast car, he could have easily made the track position back. It was just so many cars as well. But then obviously the mistakes that came out of it, just the loss of momentum, and that could happen mentally to a driver where you get a penalty, something bad happens to you, your confidence gets shaken down, and all of a sudden the complexity of your race changes. Happened to Austin Riddy, so hopefully we don't see any penalties issued to him or anyone else on the field, and maybe we'll see some drivers head for pit road. We'll find out as they follow the iRacing official pace car into turn 14 here to complete lap number 20. You talked about, though, Francisco, just how fast Lawson Peel is, and that has definitely not been surprising at all considering his road course history, as Lawson Peel actually going to peel off to the right, and along with Scott Healy and a couple of others, we'll head for pit road. So an interesting call here by the Chick-fil-A machine, going to drop in terms of the running order, but this may be a call that could set him up nicely for the rest of this race.
I think this is not exactly a fuel call. I don't think you can exactly make it the rest of the way. It would be a tight stretch if they tried it, but definitely try something here. You can't blame him. This is pretty fast. He can probably get back up there and still challenge for this win. You can't exactly move him out, but definitely we're wondering what's going on here. It makes sense to try it. There'll be 15 laps or so away from the finish when they take the green. That's probably going to have to save a lap. So if you're asking a lot to go as fast as you can to catch up to leaders and save the fuel. So we'll see which one he goes with. There's two real options you see here with everybody that came down pit road, but for the sake of argument, I'm going to try to explain who's Lawson Peel as the reference. So Lawson Peel's about 2 laps short on Peel, 16 to go. We saw Daniel Michel earlier in this very race go 14 laps, almost 15, depending on how much you want to save. Lawson Peel could, in theory, try and save that little bit that he needs to be able to go the distance, and or he could try and take a quick no tire stop under green flag and take just the bare minimum needed to get to the finish and have a faster pit stop than everybody and gain back some position and time that way. So I think one of those two things is what Lawson Peel plans on doing, and honestly, I don't blame him for trying. He loves being able to pass some cars, and no matter what he does, he's going to be able to do that.
It's also not going to be as big of a drop back because he's going to be in P7. When we dropped the green flag, he was one of the many in the field to come in for pit road. Obviously, we talked about 22 that have started, 18 remain on the racetrack, and many of them 1 lap down or more, starting with Tristan Bailey in 15th. So not as much on the hurt for Peel here. It's just going to be interesting to see how fuel is going to work in this scenario with all of these guys in front staying out. Now, one thing that we also do need to point out is that all of the pit stops we've seen so far tonight, Francisco, have involved changing of the tires. We have not seen anybody just come in for fuel only. We've seen everybody come in for 11 to 15 second stops, 2 to 4 tires. We've never seen anybody just get fuel only, and I was expecting Lawson Peel to not lift up the jacks at all, but instead lifted up both sides of the race car, got 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, going to be on his way to P7. An interesting call there, very unique one, but again, we do need at least that one more pit stop before this race ends. We're going to see these drivers at the front pit. Of course, they're not going to pit under this caution flag here. And then we just try to find out what happens with Lawson Peel, whether he's able to save enough fuel or whether he's going to have to pit that one more time, and that whether that alternative strategy, given his pace, is going to work out in his favor. We'll try to see if the lights flicker off on the iRacing official pace car, but we'll set them up like this on the running order. Austin Riddy, your race leader in the 96. AJ Green to follow suit in P2. Joe Sanchez has moved his way back inside the top 3. Lance Hill ends up in P4. We'll see if he can get back to the place where he started tonight's race in P1. He is joined alongside with Colin Forster inside the top 5. Craig Lounslugger, a very quiet race for the Toyota Camry, but the Sitco machine sits in P6. Lawson Peel, like we talked about, in P7. And then Scott Healy, P8. Jaden Porter in the 28, a driver we haven't talked about all night long, sporting a very beautiful number 28 Chevy Camaro and the Fall Creative number 28 this time around. So new paint scheme on behalf of Porter, and Adam Alashire in P10 to round out those group of cars.
We're still under caution here, and hopefully a lap away from the green flag. I want to take this opportunity, and because I won't be remiss if I didn't get. Looks like we have some cars coming down. No, but Craig Lounslugger is, though. Look at it further back. Craig Lounslugger is now going to try and do the same thing these guys did with the extended caution laps. It could open that possibility of guys taking that fuel only stop under green, as we just talked about a lap ago with the other guys. So a couple positions gained there for some of the guys who did it a lap ago. But these guys have that extra lap of fuel, so interesting what they might do here, what they can do with that. Again, they can't really go the whole way. You're asking a lot to save 2 laps here. It's 8 miles, as the lights now are off, so they will double up, but you can see just how many cars several lap cars got laps back, and they're circulating around the racetrack. Cars don't care, it's a mess right now. But going back to what I was going to say originally, is I will be remiss to say this. Shout out to the 904 Duval County and the Jacksonville Jaguars for making the playoffs. I'm very excited for this. This is the first time they made the playoffs since I've been watching football. This is great stuff. And, I'll be in attendance at the game, so that's my first time going. I can't wait for it.
It's going to be awesome, but I'm just going to let you know the Dolphins are in the playoffs too. It's a Florida battle. We're going to see who lasts the longest. I know they're playing the Bills. It's not going to be good at all, but I mean, we'll see. It's going to be fun, though.
Oh, and don't forget about Tampa. All Florida teams made it for the first time since 1999. That's the first time in our lifetime.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge for Tampa. I almost forgot Tampa was a team for 2 seconds. I almost forgot Tom Brady is still playing. I forgot that Tom Brady is still playing, but nonetheless, all of them in the playoffs. It's going to be an exciting weekend. I know you're going to be out for that Jacksonville game, so bring us back some of that Jacksonville Jaguar energy. And next week, when we head over to the Richmond Raceway. So finally doubled up for the restart. Lights are off on the iRacing official pace car. We will go green with 15 laps to go for Road America. That is a little bit in terms of the timing and scoring, but it is a lot when you consider that we're going 4 miles around this Road America track. Austin Reedy, of course, in your race lead. He's led a chunk of laps tonight here from this circuit, but we'll see if anybody tries to nab it away by the time we get to turn 1. We did talk about maybe some of the chaos and some of the aggression turning up in this second half, just because track position is going to matter more than ever. We'll see if guys like AJ Green, Sanchez, Lance Hill, and all these guys are willing to take a chance. And obviously, in the back, how Lawson Peel and all those guys who came down pit road are going to be affected by this strategy that they've decided to take for the rest of the event, and how they are going to act when we get that coveted green flag. So we'll head around the carousel for the final time before we go back to green flag racing with those final 15 laps left. And remember, these drivers here up at the front, not with a win so far in Season 5. Only have had 3 different winners in our calendar over the first 5 races. We've had 2 drivers have 2 wins. One of them, Colin Forster. The other, Lawson Peel in the 12. Then Steven Stempion with that 1 win, and Stempion isn't here, unfortunately, in attendance tonight from Road America. So free range for everybody at the front to potentially capture their first win of Season 5. We've seen Austin Reedy be very conservative at the start, but be very aggressive later on. We've seen AJ Green be very fast as well. He's been able to be clutch in these moments as well. Lance Hill trying to defend that Road America win. Joe Sanchez trying to get his first in a while, I believe since New Hampshire of last season, which is a while if you really think about it, a couple of months back. So that first win of Season 5 and a playoff spot just waiting all of these drivers. We'll see how they handle themselves by the time they get to turn 14. They come off of Canada Corner, which was one of the most dramatic parts of the course last time we were here in that battle between Lawson Peel and Lance Hill. We'll go back up the hill. We'll get to that right-hander, turn 14, and then we'll go all the way back up in elevation to Barney the Flagman, who still holds that green flag. The pace car will make its way to the entrance of pit road at the right side of the racetrack, and it's all on Austin Reedy with discretion to bring the field to charge for turn 1. Pace car is down. The 2 bow ties lead us back to green with 15 laps to go. Reedy gonna wait to hit the gas pedal. Barney the Flagman with the green in tow. Back under green. Restart underway from Road America.
It's Joe Sanchez, AJ Green side by side. Looks like Green may have got fast, but look behind them. Lawson Peel aggressively is going to get into the 4th spot. As you look down throughout the field, guys are trying to be more aggressive. You see a lot of looseness. Guys are trying to put the problems all the way down to see if they can get in position, slide up in front of each other. But nobody really spun there. So great stuff being able to keep it straight once again, like the very start. But like last season, like we talked about at the beginning, this is going to be the part right here. Turn 5. Who can make it through clean? Guys are in battles. Do they try and get too much? Here goes now Peel to the inside of Green, going into turn 5. He's going to get to the inside. We'll have him clear before the corner. And as we come out of turn 5, gets a little bit loose. And oh, you see a little bit of a lock up there. Several cars going wide. A car goes off the track. Not particularly sure who that was in that moment. But we've definitely lost 1 car there. And a couple guys went wide. So a lot of mayhem going on. Here's a second look at it. There's Lance Hill. There's Colin Forster. There's a lock up there by Healy and gets into Hill. and just goes wide and then goes straight off the track. Hill and Forster, minimal contact, probably minimal damage. They're able to keep it straight, and unfortunately lost a couple of positions there, but that was definitely more of the intensity of what I was speaking to earlier in the race, Kenneth, when I said this restart will definitely have some more aggression.
And I was about to point it out, Healy made that huge dive underneath Adam Alashire, was going to look for that 2-for-1, and it looked dire. He carried so much speed going down the hill. It felt like he was going to overshoot that corner. Indeed, did so, and Scott Healy immediately out of this race, and he joins a couple of others on the DNF list. Kyle Benson behind the wall, 19, Brandon Gillis in P20, and Kevin D'Elia, who we saw eliminated from the race early on in that contact with Curtis Kelly. So Healy out of this race. Forrester and Hill dropped to 6th and 8th on the racetrack, but all still trying to catch Austin Riddy, who will grab 14 laps to go from Road America, holding on to a 1.1 second gap. But look no further. Here comes Lawson Peel from 7th on the restart to P3, back for turn 1.
Peel's making a big move already. We've documented how fast he's been historically at road courses, and today has been right on schedule. He's back up to P3 now, and he's going to see if he can attack Joe Sanchez once again. It will probably take him perhaps a lap if Sanchez has a really good lap, and maybe at the end of it, he'll make it a move any sooner. And that'll definitely put some pressure on Austin Reed, who now doesn't have that buffer to rely on when it comes to the gap to these two. He's right there, just about a second or so clear of the field, so he needs to watch out. And speaking of watching out, that was a real close call there for the driver of the, I believe that is the 20, I couldn't exactly make out that.
91.
Apologies, but the 91, yeah, Alashire. I haven't seen that car in a minute, but he did make that big save there. You don't really see that with this car. You haven't seen it today. Gets into the grass and saves the car, Kenneth. Didn't do that earlier in the race, but he did it there when it matters more, when he has some track position. Now he's having to hold off his teammate Lance Hill, aggressively blocking. There was some contact there. Alishire's going to lock up and go off the track.
And those are two teammates at Trackhouse Racing. Alashire goes sideways in the grass right in front of Craig Lownslager, who has to hop on the binders. And they're going to be able to keep it clean. That's going to bring in Brandon Banks. That's Tristan Bailey in the background and multiple others in this group. But Alashire plummets through the running order after that little mistake and a contact with Lance Hill, who now settles into the top 5 with Colin Forster right behind in the 99 machine. Drama only ensuing here in the final 14. And Hill going to now look up the road. That's AJ Green next in line, P4. Those are a couple of seconds, though, before he gets to that next race car, so it is going to matter significantly. Austin Riddy dives for Canada Corner. It's a 1 second gap, and that has closed, but then Lawson Peel has also closed in as well in 3rd place last time by with a 2:12.7, not faster than your race leader at a 2:11.4, but these three may put up a stellar fight for the race win. And also think about it, Francisco, Austin Riddy, Joe Sanchez, and a majority of the field who stayed up at the front, they have to pit sooner than the 12 car who made that alternative strategy under yellow. So that may be a huge factor in this race, and it might just maybe decide the winner as we stay green.
It's very true, Kenneth, because most likely I do see guys possibly taking fuel only on this final stop. It would make sense considering you're probably coming in for just a little bit of fuel anyways, especially if you're the 12. All you need is about, what, 4 laps possibly just to ensure you can make it? Absolutely take fuel only and give yourself a chance at the win, even if you're not already in the lead. If you do that, you give yourself a really good shot, and you possibly defend against somebody doing that same strategy close enough to make it work, like Reedy, if Reedy were to do that as well. So we'll just have to see as there's a bit almost contact there with Michel and Tristan Bailey, as a little bit of ground there is lost by Michel on corner exit. Bailey's able to pull away. But the top 3 have stayed about a second apart from each other right now, early in the run. But it is important to note the fuel window is open. If you do desire to come down pit road and fill the tank up of fuel, you can indeed make it the rest of the way in this race, as the bumper goes to the back of the 24 from the 25, and we'll see if it happens again going up the hill. He is going to get that help just a little bit, though, and the 24 is going to wash out, and there goes Michel making a textbook move to take that position away the rough way.
An aggressive pass before they get to the carousel. The Cat Marrow makes it happen for P9. And that is Tristan Bailey now slipping into the last spot of the top 10. How about Brandon Banks as well in P11, the driver of the 54? We've seen him grab a couple of top 5s at these road courses. Hasn't been a very stellar evening for this number 54 machine for Drinking Bros Racing. The Banks just hanging in, a driver that has made all of the championship fives in the past couple of seasons and just looking to continue this top 10 run. Battle for second decided already. Lawson Peel found the way around the cookout machine. So now next in line, Austin Reedy in the 96, coming to 12 laps to go.
If there's anything we can expect of Austin Reedy once Lawson Peel gets there, Kenneth, is that he's going to put up a fight and he's going to put up a defense to try and battle it, as he looks like he may have made a mistake off the bottom corner. He's going to leave him susceptible, not on the front straightaway, but he is going to lose time this entire straightaway to Peel. Peel's already pulling away a little bit from Joe Sanchez. He's about a second or so behind your race leader as we go down towards turn 1. But you can't help but feel that that 12 car is closing in on Austin Reedy, and Peel, in the back of his mind, is getting deja vu from last year all over again. But it's not with Lance Hill, it's with the 96 of Austin Reedy, which he has battled before, but not at this racetrack.
Remember Circuit of the Americas, the strategy battle that those two had, and the 12 making that mistake out of turn 20. Went around, gave Austin Reedy the wide open space to cross the line first, and that was the deciding factor to hold off Lawson Peel's attempt to get a road course victory. That has since been solved after Watkins Glen this season, but Peel would not definitely complain if he can get a second. He goes way sideways to the exit at the bottom of the hill, turn 5. Joe Sanchez to follow suit as well, but the gap has closed. 9/10 of a second, make it almost 8/10 of a second, going for the right-hander. The 12 is approaching and approaching fast. How does Austin Reedy play the defense to hold on?
He's going to have to do it, but on entry. You cannot go deep to try and defend. You have to defend the exit, so conserve yourself and go easy on entry and you maybe don't even have to take a defensive line. You just force them to back out, because guys will try and bait you into that. They'll try and fake to the inside to get you to go offline and mess up your corner a little bit, lose momentum on exit, and that's where they pounce on you. So you have to stay in the racing line the whole way, and only if you absolutely must should you go down there to make some sort of defense or block attempt on a car that's making a move on you. Otherwise, it's just a play to get you offline on exit, and that's where they're going to try and make the pass. So we'll see what happens here. One thing's for sure, these two have given us a good battle before. For the next 12 laps, we might as well just get another classic here between these two. We saw it with fuel mileage and with an intense battle last season at Circuit of the Americas. I don't think it's going to be exactly fuel mileage here today, but definitely a pit stop awaits these two. And we'll see what exactly happens to determine the exact gap. Reedy has the lead right now, but we know that the 12 has a little bit more fuel in that race car, and that could be the difference, because I just don't see these guys taking 4 tires. If they did, it negates any gains that you would have from having a fuel advantage. But I will say that having a little bit more fuel in his race car right now, it does make that 12 car a little bit clearer. It will take just a little bit better. So it could give him an advantage in these low-speed corners to make up the ground.
2 factors for this race win. Secondary one, the mind games played on the racetrack. The first one, the fuel strategy. But I got to ask this as well, Francisco. That 96, the 55, many others, they have to come down pit road before this race is over. They pitted before that halfway caution came out. They stayed out. They didn't elect that strategy that Lawson Peel did to come down an extra time for fuel and tires. So if you're this 96, you have the 12 hounding on your rear bumper under a second. When do you strike? What time do you come in for pit road, at least to allot yourself a decent amount of time to merge back on the racetrack and gain some track position and or get back the race lead?
I would say after 10 to go, if the 12 does not come down pit road, I would take a gamble and do it myself, because the gap is closing. You can see it right there. As Peel makes a mistake, he's going to go across the grass just a little bit, but he's able to keep it going. Doesn't lose too much time, but that could have easily been worse. We've seen guys lock up there, wheel hop, and spin out, but Peel, with incredible car control, able to keep it under him and doesn't lose too much time to your race leader. But if I'm Austin Reedy now, it's a little bit of a bigger gap. Once again, if it's 10 to go or 9 to go, and the pit stop has not been made from the car behind, I would come in and take no tires as Peel almost gets into the grass once again. I will take no tires, just the minimum fuel, knowing that these race cars can support that kind of strategy and make that happen and try and see if I can go for a race win. At this point, you have to. You know the fastest car is behind you. You've led all these laps, but you cannot throw this race away by not trying to outsmart, strategize that 12 car, because yes, he's fast, but he's really good at strategy as well. You can't just leave that move open.
Here's the former Stonks Motorsports trio, the 48, AJ Green, Lance Hill in the 1, the 99 and Colin Forster, all of them 4th, 5th, and 6th on the racetrack right now. One of the other closest battles out on the surface, apart from that battle for 2nd and maybe even for the race lead. The 48 holding on, but Lance Hill, we've seen him as aggressive as ever, still trying to get back to the point. Will aim for turn 1, but will not have enough momentum, so will back out. We saw him deal the bumper many times to the 99 Forester in many different types of corners, and it looks like an attempted pass for turn 3. And again, Hill will back out, just does not have the space nor the speed to be able to get around that AJ Green machine in a potential battle for the last spot in the podium. Still half a second between Joe Sanchez and Lawson Peel, who, by the way, has dropped back Francisco to the race leader. At one point, it was down to roughly 7/10 of a second, but now it's roughly at about 1.5. So Peel making a couple of mistakes. It's allowing Austin Reedy to run away lap by lap, so that only adds on to the buffer, and that is going to help just that little bit. It's not going to help that much, but just a little bit for that moment that the 96 does come down for service, and it's going to eliminate any extension of the gap that he will have with Lawson Peel by the time he comes out of pit road. So still waiting for a majority of the field to come in for the last bit of service. Lawson Peel, we know as well, I believe, still has to come down pit road at least one more time before this race is all said and done. So strategy continues to be the biggest factor at play in for this checkered flag. On board with AJ Green, still holding on for 4th, but Lance Hill breathing down his neck, exiting the carousel.
What I've noticed is that Hill tends to brake a little bit earlier going into the braking zone, not trying to exactly get into the back of the AJ Green machine, but he also is trying to beat the former exit. It hasn't worked so far, so we'll see if there's a change in strategy. You see a little bit of a late brake there from the car behind. He's going to try and see if he can set himself to a different line. And you see right there on exit is able to stay a little bit lower and gains just a little bit of time, but he's lost a lot compared to the top 3 by staying behind AJ Green, a former teammate of his. Obviously not teammates anymore, but these 3 right here, they're used to racing each other and sharing information. Forster and Lance Hill still teammates. As actually, there goes Forster down pit road, so he's the first one that's going to come in at the 10 to go mark. So Forster's going to come in. We'll see what he does. I think what Forster does could spell what the rest of the field does, because if he takes tires, that would make it very interesting as far as what the rest of the field will do, because we've seen guys take tires on the first stops, guys take tires under caution. Not everybody did pit, of course, but I just don't see a way you don't take fuel only. We know that the tires don't wear with this race car, so it'll be curious to see. He pulls into his stall now. He's going to pull it into a stop. He's stationary. I don't see the jacks going up. No tires. He's just taking fuel. All right. He took about, let's call it 7 seconds or so of fuel, so he's able to exit right away and get back on the racetrack. We know guys need less than that, so that's going to make the difference right there.
7.4 second stop on the 99 of Colin Forster, and with that information, does that allow the 96 to potentially think more about coming in this time by? The gap is closed. Peel gets a bit of the grass going down the hill, 4/10 of a second. The 96 slaps a little bit loose. The 12 closing in, and we could have a battle for the race lead. And could this be the boiling point for the 96 of Austin Reedy to come in for the final stop in this race for Motor America?
It was 12 laps to go last season when the contact was made from Lawson Peel and Lance Hill in that battle for the win. 9 to go right now, and these two are the closest they've been all race to each other. And you see Peel's being very aggressive. He's using a lot of the track. It's gained in the distance, but he has to be careful with the slick and grass and with the way these cars are when they're not on asphalt. It can be very dangerous to be doing all that, especially too much, because you might go off just a little bit more than you expect. And that's what our second made to see. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Joe Sanchez off the racetrack in Canada corner. And there's Lance Hill as well. He's going to nose into the tire barrier, much similar to last season. But unfortunately for him, he's not in the race lead. He's going to lose a couple of spots there, and he's going to pull down the order just a bit.
And it looked like a mistake might have brought him out of the battle against AJ Green in the 48. You see Hill gets a little bit too wide and just goes for a ride in the grass and goes hard into the tire barriers. We're yet to fully confirm whether he has any toe link damage. I don't believe that's the case. He's still able to steer the car quite well, so it looks like he's okay, but he is going to come in for pit road. Austin Reedy going to do the same with 8 laps to go.
This is what I think he should do, though, so we'll see if this works out. He does have to take a little bit more fuel than his counterpart in Lawson Peel. But the question is, how much more does he take as he pulls it into a stop? Obviously, the jacks are not going up, and the same can be said for these other cars that are coming into pit road now. So there he goes. That's about 6 seconds or so of fuel. So he's going to exit back out on the racetrack. Joe Sanchez might only have to stop by about 3, maybe 4 seconds of fuel. We'll see if that's exactly what he does or not when he comes to pit road, Kenneth. But the difference is going to be in there and getting on and off pit road, specifically on. You could be very aggressive getting on pit road and gain a lot of time. So we'll see who's conservative and who's not. And also, I would definitely like to know if I called that time right again.
We'll also think about the stops between Colin Forrester and Austin Reedy. Forrester with a 7.4 second stop. It looks like Austin Reedy, according to our timing and scoring, is an 8.2. So a little slower there, almost a full second slower for the 96 of Reedy, who will drop back to the entrance of the top 5. P5 standing right now right behind Daniel Michel in the 25 machine. There are a couple of other drivers on the same strategy, I believe, for yet to pit, or I think actually everybody might have already come down. So everybody on Lawson Peel's strategy now staying out with these final 8 laps left to tick off from Road America. Peel up by almost 20 seconds. Jaden Porter, we haven't talked about all night long, Francisco, a driver for Bacalhau Bueno Racing, one that has definitely proven as a formidable road course racer. We talk about his first road course start at Watkins Glen last season. Even the Watkins Glen race from a couple of weeks back. Jaden Porter has been very good at these tracks, and we haven't talked about him all night long, but he will settle in a second. Adam Alashire had a mistake a little while back. He is now into third. And then, like we talked about, 4th and 5th, the 25 and the 96, Daniel Michel and Austin Reedy in his car. 7 laps to go from Road America. We do know that the front pack does have to come down at least one more time. But the question is, how much time do they spend down on the pit lane? And does that help the 96 get back to the race lead?
It's going to be hard, Kenneth, because that last lap, the 12 did stay out, and he ran half a second faster from when the laps he was behind Austin Reedy. So not only does he have a quicker stop scheduled, but he's also running faster lap times at the moment. Austin Reedy is about to come across the line any second now, so we should get an updated lap time for him. And he actually just crossed the line now. Is the pit stop lap, so not exactly completely accurate, but the lap he ran going into pit road was only 2:12. So for the number 12 to run a 2:10, that's very impressive of what he's able to do. So I think right now, barring any major mistakes being made by this 12 car before he goes down pit road, you could see him exit with the lead.
You saw the 91 Adam Alashire come in for pit road. Curtis Kelly, the same in that group in the 71. So that's the next batch of cars to come in for service. Alashire, remember, on that strategy as the number 12, the number 28, the 25, and I believe also the 48, or rather not the 48 of AJ Green. He's on the strategy of Austin Reedy and company. So top 3 on their own strategy. Everybody 4th on back with a different one. It looks like Daniel Michel might have lost the position. Indeed, he did. Reedy going to bully his way into the podium and just trying to chop off every last bit of time. And one thing also to note as well that we haven't talked about, Francisco, the pit delta here at Road America, one of the longest in the sim on these stock car road course races. Watkins Glen, relatively average. Same deal for the Charlotte Roval. Same deal for Circuit of the Americas. Same deal for the Indy Road Course. But Road America just that little bit longer. The pit delta is insanely lengthy compared to the other tracks. So you really have to play this strategy right. And for the 12 of Lawson Peel, I think why not go for the fastest laps? Why not continue to open up the gap, which sits at 22 seconds between himself and Jaden Porter? Because if he continues to do that, it only allows him more of a positive buffer by the time he comes out of pit road inside these final 6.
The gap he's definitely looking at is the gap to Austin Reedy, which currently sits at 36 seconds, and when Reedy exited pit road, it was at 35 seconds. So he is still growing the race lead and running fast laps. So we know that he still has to come down pit road. Most likely, he is about 3 or so laps short at least on fuel. So you should expect him in the next couple of laps to make that stop and come on in for some fuel, as you see a couple of battles going on the racetrack. And I think for the first time in a long portion of this race, the sun has peaked out here in the closing stages of the race. That could change the track conditions just a little bit, and enough to maybe warrant a mistake or two for some guys. So you have to stay careful here, because it is 6 laps, but if you think about it, it is roughly around 24 or so miles left in this race, which is still pretty lengthy as Jaden Porter finally comes down pit road, takes his service. He took the faster car because he did have some right foot damage. I actually know the damage is still there. But he exits away now, and he should be somewhere inside the top 10 or so, and could be on his way. But there's Peel still having not pitted. He'll take 5 laps to go when he comes to the line this time, Kenneth. But we'll see out of turn 16 if he pulls to the right there and goes up the hill to go down here further.
And think about the gap that's sitting right now between first and second, and that 12 to 96. 33.9 seconds, roughly 34, was over the mark there. It is closing down just a bit, now at around 33.8 as the 12 exits the kink and will head for the final sector of this course before you get to turn 14 and that coveted entrance for the pit lane. A lot of these drivers in the 38.5-second mark, or even a little less, around that 38-second mark, from pit entry to pit exit, including the pit stop. And for Austin Reedy, last time he was on the pit lane, 39.5 seconds. That was with that 8.2-second stop that did not include lifting up the jacks 4 tires, and that should be roughly a 4 or 5-second difference between Peel and Austin Reedy if that 12 ends up coming for the pit lane. Peel will head up the hill for 5 laps to go from the virtual Road America circuit. How much longer does the 12 stay out before he comes in for service, and can Austin Reedy catch up in enough time?
We know he does have to come down pit road, so it's probably not a question of if he's trying to save to the end. He would have definitely had to have done that from the drop of the green. But a question of when does he choose to come down pit road. And at this point, does he make a mistake entering pit road? We can't exactly rule that out, especially pitting so late in the race. You might think it's routine. You could go up that hill and maybe make a mistake on the brakes, and you might speed a little bit. You might lose enough control to where you hit a wall or something, and that could slow down your time. So you have to stay on your mark if you're the 12 of Peel at all times. Do not let go of this just a little bit. Any bit of a mistake here could open the door right back up to Austin Reedy. Right now he sits in the Catburns at a 33 or so second lead on the driver of the 96 machine, but he has to stay on his toes. He knows he's going to have a faster stop, but when does he decide to come down pit road? We're at the closing stages. It should happen either this lap, the next one, or the one after that. I cannot see it going any farther than that. We know for sure he can't go the leg, so it's a question of when does he decide to do it, and if it's a clean stop.
And it's also a philosophy of coming down for pit road and then giving yourself enough time to get back into a rhythm and pick yourself back up in running position, because we may see Lawson Peel drop back to second. It may be a valid point to bring up as he goes for the grass and almost goes completely into that DRS sign, exiting the kink and heading for Canada corner. If he loses the race lead, he needs to give himself enough laps to catch back up to that 96. Maybe he's confident enough in his abilities to do so, but you do need to allot yourself that time, or else it may just be too little too late, and Lawson Peel's pursuit at a 3rd race win in Season 5 might be all for naught. We continue to play this waiting game. Peel going to come out of turn 14, and if he makes this right-hand turn, he will head for his final pit stop of the evening. Will he do it? Answer is no. He stays out for an extra lap. 4 laps to go from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
The important thing to note is Austin Reedy started to close the gap again. It took him a couple laps, but now he's doing it. He cut it down to 33 seconds now from what it was 37 a couple of laps ago. So he's starting to put together some decent lap times to close the gap, to at least make it questionable for the 12th of Peel to be able to keep this up and see what he's able to do. So right now we're on board with, kind of misses the apex there, but he's been going.
Oh, Reedy's around.
He's going to spin.
Reedy's around at the exit of turn 14. Could that be the nail in the coffin for Reedy's attempt at a race victory? Daniel Michel might slip by for second. A crucial mistake by Austin Reedy with 4 laps to go.
And something different when he missed that apex, Kenneth. I noted that just as we were board, it looked like he was off the curb there, as he should be. We'll look at it from above, and yeah, you see, he's about a lane off, but it didn't look like he tried to back out of it in any way and proceeded as normal. It loses into the tire barrier, but fortunately it spins him around in the right enough way to keep going. We'll get a third look at it now. He goes through the section fine, and he might have gotten on the brakes just a little bit late here, as the turn in late is about a little bit wide, but he does not compensate for it. He's trying not to lose time, but in the process, Kenneth, he absolutely is going to cost himself with that one. And just like Watkins Glen, but in a different situation, a mistake is going to cost him, as he almost gets 25 of Michel. These two now battling for sure. as Reedy now gets past him once again, and he has to watch out because he might go off the track, and that time he does take into account that he could do that, and that's what he probably should have done the first time, and there's contact. They're racing very hard here.
Contact once, twice, and maybe 3 times going down the hill, heading for the carousel. Michel trying all that he can to hold on for a second, and finally will clear, and Reedy will drop once more to P3 on the racetrack. And you're right, Francisco, just hopping on the brakes a little too late, grabbing that little piece of grass that has caught so many drivers this evening from Road America, and probably knowingly of that mistake, Lawson Peel comes in for his final stop inside 3 laps to go with a 39.5-second lead over Michel in second.
And he didn't have to have too aggressive of a pit entry because he knows that he has now a little bit bigger of a buffer that he can rely on so that he can still exit with the race.
Reedy is towed. Reedy is towed on the racetrack, went wide in turn 3. Here's a look at the replay, into the grass once and then twice, and bam, into the outside tire barriers, heading for, I believe that's the kink. Or it might just be the entrance of another corner. We'll try and see it again. This is exiting the carousel.
You're right.
And so Austin Reedy,
Hill.
It's insult to injury, and this race has completely turned sour as he goes wide at the carousel, gets the grass. Michel does the same, but it's able to pick it up. Reedy not so fortunate, and slams into the barriers, into the kink.
It's exactly the same thing that happened at Hill, except he didn't break loose much like Hill did. He was able to get it straight, but then there's a second time where he gets into the grass on the opposite side of the racetrack, and being that far low, the kink, it definitely was going to hurt him. There you see Peel in the lead. He does have a very healthy lead now over the 25 of Daniel Michel, but how quickly the race turns around for you. It looked like it was going back in his direction after what was a couple of questionable laps there with the pit stops, the way that could have worked out for him. He makes the mistake and makes another one, which is going to cost him a top 5 altogether. So that's very unfortunate for the driver of the 96. Michel almost gets into the grass and spins himself out, going up the hill into turn 6, but he's able to hold on to second. That puts AJ Green in third. Colin Forster's moved up to 4th, and he might be under attack here shortly by Joe Sanchez before this race is over. That's your top 5. And now we have a 3-way battle for the 6th position with Brandon Ranks, Craig Lounslager, and Jaden Porter all in, as now Lounslager will move up to 6th.
And here's Jaden Porter getting ahead of the... Or Jaden Porter heading into P6, so he gets around Brandon Banks. There's Craig Lounslager, the 3rd car in this mix, and that's Sitco number 13. So fantastic battle here. We saw Jaden Porter pit a couple of laps ago, just on the same strategy as Lawson Peel, who pitted 1 lap prior, or rather 1 lap prior to this lap here 3 laps ago. He's now 13.5 seconds ahead of Danny Michel, and Porter able to make quick work of that assignment in the 54. And so Jaden Porter might try to catch up to Joe Sanchez, but it looks like the time might just be too large to overcome inside the final 8 or so miles that we will have from Wisconsin and from America's National Park of Speed. The 12 of Lawson Peel catches 2 laps to go from Road America, and the gap only continues to grow. Now 14 seconds heading for turn 1, and you have to imagine that Peel might have been under pressure by the 96 of Reedy. Unfortunately, Austin makes those mistakes and is completely out of the case for the race victory, and it's all about the 12 coasting and making sure that he puts up these final 2 perfect laps, these final 2, or rather final 8 miles perfectly here for what is going to be his 3rd win of the season.
This goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning of the show. There was 2 keys to the race I presented. That was limiting mistakes and staying on the track. And those 2 at the same time is exactly what cost Austin Reedy. As Peel goes wide, he has a big enough lead and he's able to keep it going too much. But keeping it on the track and not making a mistake was exactly the 2 things I mentioned was going to be the thing that could win you the race if you're able to prevent doing any of those things. Reedy had been doing so well, and unfortunately he did both of those, and that's exactly why he's not battling for the win at this point.
And remember last season with the 12 of Lawson Peel battling against Lance Hill, they both made contact entering Canada corner. They both went wide. Peel got the worst end of the contact, ended up completely rendered out of that race for the win. Lance Hill was able to hold on and take his first 4-Wide Racing Cup Series checkered flag. The 12 of Peel, very experienced driver, 7 wins in last races season, last season of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, has been able to be such a dominant force week in and week out. 2 wins already on the calendar in Season 5, and it looks like there is no stopping the driver of the 12, who looks for Canada Corner for the penultimate time here from Road America, and will be in search of what will be his 3rd white flag en route to a checkered, this time by.
His way out there, Kenneth. He's enjoying himself. All he has to do is make it around the next 4 miles and just make sure he doesn't make a mistake. He has a big lead if he wants to give it all up and not have to worry about making a mistake. And he's got some lap traffic in front of him, which shouldn't be a problem. Right now, we're looking at the battle to watch. This is the 99 of Forrester and the 55 of Joe Sanchez. These two very familiar to each other. There's a lapper just in front of these two. It's going to go off the track. It offsets Forrester a little bit. They're side by side in this final sector. Joe Sanchez on the right-hand side of Forrester. Forrester might slide a little bit, and that gives the spot to Joe Sanchez as they're coming to the white flag themselves.
Forrester had to back out there. That's a very narrow part of the sector heading for turn 14, so Sanchez is able to clear for 4th. Forrester going to hold on to the last spot of the top 5, but exiting turn 3 on the Sargento Cheese Bridge straightaway is Lawson Peel in the 12 car. Started 24th at Watkins Glen, ended up with a race win on strategy and by raw pace. This time by starts inside, but he goes sideways, and he will go around at the entrance of turn 5. Remember, there's still roughly 10 or so seconds before Daniel Michel can get to the crime scene, but the 12 is around at the bottom of the hill, and here comes Michel.
He might have just gotten lucky there, Lawson Peel, because there he is right there. Michel's trying to be aggressive. About a second or so short, Kenneth. That could have for the 12 of Peel. We talked about mistakes.
Peel's off again.
Michel's going to take the lead.
Peel is sideways. He may fall back to 3rd, and Michel out of the race lead for the first time.
On the last lap.
Can you believe it? We've talked about mistakes all night long, and Peel gets caught by not 1 but 2 crucial ones, heading for turn 5 and turn 7. Daniel Michel into the carousel for the final time.
He's going for his first win. This would be a Daniel Michel, Kenneth. He's raced with us for a while now. All he has to do is execute the next couple of corners. He's been fast all night, and it's taken mistakes from Lawson Peel, and he's going to almost go in the grass. Yeah, he does, but he keeps it straight. You're just hoping that he's able to not make a mistake like Wolfhard did. He's just trying to make sure he can get to the line. There you see AJ trying to Peel for 2nd. As we go now into Canada Corner, it's Daniel Michel in the lead. AJ Green is in 2nd, and Lawson Peel's in 3rd, Kenneth. He made the mistake at the worst possible time, did Lawson Peel. Made 2 of them in the same lap on the final lap, and it presented the opportunity for this driver right here. Daniel Michel comes off of the final corner, and in an unbelievable turn of events at Road America is going to capture his first 4-Wide Racing win.
Daniel Michel to the checkered flag for the first time in his 4-Wide Racing Cup Series career. Checkered flag for the California native. And in a dramatic last 4 miles, the 25 plays the cards right in 2nd place, arrives at the perfect moment. And he was a driver and entrant from the MPI Cup Series. A driver who had struggled to get to victory lane and replicate a lot of that consistency from that campaign in the MPI category, but finally strikes off win number 1. AJ Green to follow suit in 2nd. Lawson Peel will come home in 3rd. Tried to recover all that he could, but made those 2 crucial mistakes. And Daniel Michel, win number 1, and becomes the 4th different winner in Season 5.
Shades of Darrell Waltrip, Kenneth. Have you ever? These races are never over until it's over. Just when you think the big lead is good enough for him, the mistakes once again bites both himself and Reedy, and it hands the win right to Michel, who's been fast all night. And he was just ready for the taking. We have to look back at that again because I'm still not quite sure I believe what I saw. Lawson Peel to take the white flag had a 14-second lead. 14 seconds, Kenneth. He did not need to push the car almost at all to be able to maintain the lead, let alone give up some of that time to make sure he could come back in the race lead. But it all started at this portion of the racetrack. Once we arrived to turn 5, he might have just outbraked himself a little bit, maybe had a little rear bias. He sees smoke up ahead, and right there, the rear just steps out completely on its own. backs into this, and he might have been fine even with this mistake, Kenneth. He had about a second or so on Michel going, but immediately proceeded with another mistake. Turn 6. Michel sees this, and he knows it's an opportunity, and I think Pio might have been just a little bit flustered. He's offline, tires are dirty,
Wow.
and proceeds to do the exact same thing. He locks up and goes off the track. I cannot believe this.
And speaking of, those are two mistakes, Francisco, that we hadn't seen out of the 12 all night long, except for that last lap. Every entrance to turn 5 was smooth as could be. Every downshift was as smooth as could be. And I think just shifted a little too early. Might have money shifted. This is on board again with the 12. Downshifts to 4th gear. Looked for 5th gear for a bit. Oh, it just downshifted way too early. The revs are way too high, and that car could not handle it. And you see him, he goes into the grass, which had been slippery for everybody all night long. The 12 tries all that he can. Like you said, though, Francisco, he could have escaped this still with the race win in hand. Michel looked like he probably would have not have enough pace in comparison to the 12 in that last half lap to make a win happen. But it's just right here. The 12 goes off. The lockup on the left front is enough to deal him in. And although Pio was able to save it, the hopes at a 3rd race victory in Season 5 completely dashed, and almost had some more contact there with AJ Green, as Green sent it for P2, was able to keep it. But Daniel Michel holds on in the last half lap or so and grabs his first career 4-wide Racing Cup Series victory in dramatic fashion. Again, the road courses never disappoint. And we have a new winner out of all of it at the end and at the wave of the checkered flag. Daniel Michel, your winner tonight from Road America by roughly a second over AJ Green in the 48 machine. Lawson Peel was destined in the last lap to get that checkered flag, but we'll have to wait for that 3rd win. Another week at Richmond. He follows into your top 3. We'll talk to all of them before our coverage is over on MaxSpeedTV. Joe Sanchez, consistent all night long. Had a couple of mistakes here and there, but he ends up in a race good enough for P4. Jaden Porter in the 28 ends up rounding out your top 5. He made a crucial pass on the likes of Craig Lautenslager and Brandon Banks to get there. Colin Forster ends up in P6. Craig Lautenslager, consistent all night long. A little quiet, but he ends up in P7. Adam Alashire up and down through the running order, ends up in P8. Brandon Banks to follow in 9th. And the 76 of Tony Kivitt, Francisco, rounds out your top 10.
And as we look down to the rest of this order, we have Lance Hill finishing in the 11th position. Austin Reedy led the most laps here tonight. Looked like he had a chance. And had he not made that mistake, Kenneth, he might have had an opportunity given what happened the rest of the race. But he will wind up in P12. Tyler Murray on pit road, he finishes, but in P13. Christopher Bishop pulled it in for P14. Curtis Kelly in P15. Christian Bailey will finish in the 16th position with Scott Healy in 17th. Michael Newbraw in 18th. Kyle Benson, who was fast early on after that mistake, will put it in P19th. Brandon Gillis will finish in the 20th spot. And rounding out your field in the 21st position is going to be or in 21st is going to be Kevin DeLea. And Jesse, who I believe did not actually make the start of the race, so he will be counted as 22nd and unofficially in the last position. Wow. I can't wait to see what these guys have to say about all those laps, all those miles, all those corners, and it came down to the very last lap for all that to happen.
The very last half lap in the entrance of turn 5. Lawson Peel making those mistakes back-to-back. Turn 5, turn 6, a little bit of turn 7, and Daniel Michel ends up victorious at the end as you look back at the celebrations that he was able to have with a couple of other drivers. The Drinking Bros Racing, by the way, first win of Season 5. I mean, actually not Season 5. That is their 3rd win of Season 5. Lawson Peel with 2 to start. But Michel adding on to the DVR control of the field as he ends up as your race winner from Road America. Let's talk to the driver of the 25, who I'm sure is just as shocked as we are that he's in victory lane. An unbelievable last lap set of events. And Daniel, you end up with your first career 4-wide Racing Cup Series victory. You were P2 in that last lap, a little while before you could catch up to the 12 of Lawson Peel. But give us your perspective and your raw emotions right now.
Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm so happy right now. I don't even know how it fell into my hands, but the first part where I got past Reedy after he got by me the first time, it scared me. I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna pull out the top 3 because I had to save fuel. When he makes that mistake, Lawson makes that mistake on the last lap, I'm ecstatic going into the last set of corners. I'm hoping for my first win.
You were hoping for it, and you got it. You were able to hold on in those final set of corners, and you get the first win in your 4-Wide Racing Cup Series career. But obviously, I know the race ended up in that last lap falling into your hands, and it definitely was chaotic by any stretch of the imagination. But you did have a very solid strategy to get to this point. I know a couple of drivers pitted before that halfway caution. Some decided to go in, like Lawson Peel, on the caution. For you, how did the strategy get to that P2, what would have been a P2 effort there, became that P1 ending, and how were you able to structure this race on that strategy just because that halfway caution was there and then the rest of the race was green?
So my strategy at the beginning was to run as long as possible, see the fuel run, and yeah, I went 14 laps, I think it was, a pretty good long run, and then I got a meatball on the second to last lap going to the stage, so I had to pit again for sure. So I figured, hey, might as well come in with one to go, fill her up with fuel, and then see if I could save all the way to the end. That's 4 extra laps at, I think. Actually, it's less, but really, really tried to save as much as possible. I knew that you could probably make it to the end, saving from the start of the restart. So
Nonetheless, the strategy puts you in a position where you're able to capitalize on the mistakes of the 12 when you end up with your first win here from Road America. An unbelievable finish, and I know you're probably still processing this win in its entirety, but to couple with that, you've got news. Now you're officially in the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. You're locked in here with this checkered flag. So now with this win in tap, heading for Richmond and just going into the rest of the regular season, what is going to be the mindset and how is it going to change, or is it going to change at all for that second half and heading for the playoffs?
well, now that I'm guaranteed that I'm in, I need to just focus on keeping it alive, put my car up front when I can, and keep it clean. Just finishing these races is a big help for the playoffs, so gotta focus on doing that.
Well, it's an unbelievable win here from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, your first in your 4-Wide Racing Cup Series career, and also the first time we get to see the Cat Marrow in Victory Lane. I've seen this paint scheme for the past couple of weeks. It is a very interesting one, so now it has a win to its name. Daniel, before we let you go here on our coverage on MaxSpeedTV, is there anybody you'd like to thank for tonight's run from the road course?
I just like to thank all the DBR guys. They helped me out a lot, especially with discipline. I know I was messing up a lot going off track, but focusing up and keeping my head in the game is what I needed, and they helped me out. I wasn't talking to them during this race. I was unfortunately on my own, but I'm just thankful that they got my back.
Well, nonetheless, I know the excitement was all the same as you crossed the line up the hill on that front straightaway. Daniel, on behalf of all of us here at MaxSpeedTV, congratulations on getting your first career 4-Wide Racing Cup Series victory. Welcome to the playoffs, and we hope to see you next week at Richmond.
Thanks, Kenneth.
So that is Daniel Michel, and the number 25 brings the Chevy Camaro to victory lane for the very first time in unbelievable fashion. The driver who ends up sort of as a witness to this entire scenario ends up in P2. That is AJ Green in the 48. He's caught up alongside with Francisco Bacallao.
Well, AJ, Road America once again has delivered for us. It was a quiet night for yourself, but you were in the top 5, and you're able to take away P2 on the final lap. What was your thoughts on the race, and what did you think of what the situation was going on there on the last lap to be able to secure that second place?
Well, the whole race, being a road course, I thought I would just fall to like the bottom, like near 8th and 9th. But running up in the top 5 is pretty nice feeling when you're running with Lawson, especially when you get to pass him. That's really great too. But I saw that last lap. I had to save a little. I took a little less gas, and if I didn't save there, I probably could have been there with Daniel. Yeah.
We saw you battling former teammates of yours and current teammates of yours in the tail, Colin Forster. What was that like in the middle of the race? We know that in road racing, usually there's a lot of separation. At least keeps you honest and keeps you in the racing competitive nature in portions of the race where it might just slip away.
Well, we always laugh when we're racing each other in our Discord chat. We all joke around with each other, and Colin will throw blocks and all that stuff, and we all say we're gonna wreck each other. Sometimes it happens. It's known more likely to sometimes a lot happen. Uh, but we don't. We race. We use the strategy like we're teammates, but when we race, it sometimes doesn't look like we're teammates.
It was still a good performance out of you, AJ. As Kenneth mentioned just a bit ago, we are going to Richmond next week. So, how do you feel having won the race there last season? How do you feel returning to a track where you have had previous success in?
Oh, I feel great. I want to keep this momentum going. I haven't had the best start to the season. This has been my best finish and my first top 5 of the season. So I wanna keep that streak up.
Starting 2023 off in the right note, are you, AJ, with the Beef Machine? And we'll give you now the opportunity to give the shouts to everybody who helped make this possible.
Yeah, shout out to you guys for broadcasting. Tyler for putting on the league. Mom and Dad, Stonks, and Daniel for win.
Appreciate you the time you take with us, AJ. Well, as luck, we'll see you hopefully at Richmond and try and see a second win at that racetrack. Thank you for taking the time with us. Congrats on B2.
Thank you.
So that's AJ Green in the 48, able to hold on for P2. And like I said before I even tossed it over to Francisco, somewhat of a witness in all of the outwardness or the outrageousness of that final lap, or at least final half lap, as we will toss it over to P3 and the driver of the 12, who was 1/2 lap away from the race victory, his start of the season, and unfortunately ends up inside the top 3, short of that checkered flag. Lawson, just first of all, walk us through what happened at the entrance of turn 5 and your perspective through it all.
I double clicked it and went from third to first, trying to go from third to second. So didn't mean to do that, but I had been going to second really quickly on my entry into that corner all night, and I was pretty aggressive going into that corner all night. And yeah, I just double clicked it on that last lap there, and yeah, obviously big lead, bad mistake. You know, kind of really dumb to do that, but yeah, I just double clicked it. I've been running more Xfinity lately and getting back into using my shifter, and I don't have a sequential shifter. I just have the H pattern. So, yeah, just been running a little bit more Xfinity and truck lately and less in this car. And so was getting back to the feel of using the paddle shifters tonight, and yeah, just made a mistake there.
Well, nonetheless, still an outstanding performance on the road course here from Road America, which we expected. I mean, you've been one of the best road course racers in this series, Road America, where you finished inside the top 3 the last time we were here in that fated battle against Lance Hill in number 38 at the time that he was driving that machine. And it looked like the pace was there since the start. You started in the mid-pack, and you even rolled off P7 in our restart after the halfway break. So what just went behind the rhythm and the outward raw pace that you were able to carry here, much like you did at Watkins Glen a couple of weeks back?
Yeah, I was in the rhythm for a while, but I was completely out of the rhythm those last few laps. I figured most everybody was going to pit under the yellow. I was originally not going to, but then I remembered Watkins Glen when I stayed out and most everybody pitted, and then they had a significantly shorter stop than me under green. You know, just less gallons they needed. So I decided to do that because I didn't think I would, you know, fall very far back, and they all stayed out. So I was kind of surprised and got the track position back pretty quickly. And then right when I caught Reedy, he went ahead and pit. And then I got the idea I was, you know, going to try to make it. For some reason, when it was lap 31 or 36, I looked down and I thought it was 5 to go, and it was really 6 to go. And I had like 4.5 estimated laps. So I thought it was a half lap short, and it was really a lap and a half short. So I slowed down one lap for like 3 or 4 seconds, thinking I was going to save and make it. And before I realized that I had one more lap and that wasn't going to work. And then I never really got back in my rhythm after that. Came in and pit, and yeah, just couldn't get back in the rhythm after that stop, and made that mistake. And then when I recovered and got back on the track just in front of Daniel there, my speed was off going up into turn 6, I think that is. And yeah, I just ran off 2 corners in a row there. So yeah, pretty bad mistake.
No, it was an unfortunate tough break, but much again, you finish well inside the top 3 at these road courses, an average finish of 2 over the past 5. So safe to say, by the time we get to the next road course race of the Charlotte Roval, you may be next up on tap. You're already locked into the playoffs, but we've got Richmond 1 week from tonight. So any certain thoughts about our first proper short track race of the season?
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to it. Yeah, Richmond's kind of always challenging, so not my best track, but I normally figure it out eventually. It normally takes me a while, but yeah, there's a lot of guys in the league that really like those short tracks, so I know there's going to be a lot of guys eyeing that on the schedule next week and looking forward to that, and it'll be yeah, fun to get on a short track and get a little short track race in 4-wide style for the first time this season. Congratulations to Daniel, my teammate, on getting the win. I know he's super excited, so glad he got it there. I thought that he was going to run out and AJ was going to get it in those last couple of turns. So, yeah, glad he was able to save enough and have enough in the tank to get him across the finish line there. It's huge for him, and you know, he's been in position a lot of times and things hadn't gone his way. So I know that's a big win for him.
Well, DBR captures first and third at the end of tonight's race from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Lawson, before we let you go here on this interview from MaxSpeedTV, anybody you'd like to thank in particular for tonight's outing?
Yeah, thank you as always for doing the broadcast, Kenneth. Thanks to Tyler and everybody that makes things happen here in 4-wide. Hope everybody enjoyed the break. Thanks to my teammates, Paul set up shop, and everybody that watched tonight.
We certainly appreciate the time. Lawson, congratulations on the podium finish here from Road America. Obviously a tough break, but we know you'll be right back at it next week at Richmond. Congratulations on the finish. We'll see you then.
Yep, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
So that is Lawson Peel in the 12, short of the race win, and made those 2 mistakes in the final lap to take him out of contention for P1. But still, like you said, big congratulations to Danny Mitchell, those 2 teammates over at Drinkin' Bros Racing. So, Francisco, I don't know how we can wrap up our final thoughts here from Road America, because I'm going to say it again, like we've said, every time we race at a road course, they never disappoint. They never disappoint. Every time we have a road course race, it's always the same deal. We get a brand new, shocking storyline. Somebody makes a mistake. We get a last lap heroic move by somebody. We get a brand new winner. You name it. We have had so many things happen at these road courses. And again, Road America tonight did not go any differently.
It's exactly what you could expect of road racing in the 4-wide Racing Cup Series, Kenneth. This is what the road racing has become in this series, and you can look forward to these road course races now, and that's a great thing to be able to say for both ourselves as broadcasters and the drivers. Now look forward to going to these races knowing that there's something to play for, that there's opportunity. We've seen this happen, and we keep seeing it happen. These cars with these drivers at these racetracks have just been a perfect combination, and it has given us exactly what we want to say. And of course, you feel bad for Peel. He had a big lead there, makes that mistake twice, and that's what gives Michel that advantage to be able to take home that win. And you have to feel for Peel. That's 2 years in a row that he's lost out in the actual battle with Lance Hill. Today, it's purely on his own mistakes on 2 occasions, 2 corners apart. That he's going to definitely take that one on the chin, and if he's definitely going to be on the lookout at Richmond to be able to try and win. At least make himself feel better after that one. But that's to the year. But how about Daniel Michel and AJ Green? Both guys said they've been struggling to start the year. Well, this is a great way to turn around the new year, actually. So you turn your season around, 2023 shows up, and you get a win and a second place respectively. I think those guys will take that for the first race of the brand new year.
It is huge, and for Michel, that is an entrance into the 4-wide Racing Cup Series playoffs, the even bigger storyline apart from that last lap extraordinary finish here from Road America. Here's a look at the rest of our Season 5 schedule. We head for Richmond, our first proper night race other than Las Vegas, but our first short track race of the season. That'll be next week on January 18th, 2023, so we'll have that race right for you here on MaxSpeedTV. Then we head for Candace, and we're going to head to the place where probably Lawson Peel is going to look to get some revenge on the road courses. The Charlotte Roval next up in a couple of races' time. We go all the way to Daytona, the final race of the regular season, and then we kick off our playoffs at Bristol before we chop things down in the field to Homestead Miami Speedway for the final race of Season So for everybody involved at the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, for Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council, and from all of us at MaxSpeedTV, and for my colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long from America's National Park of Speed. Congratulations to Daniel Michel on his very first 4-Wide Racing Cup victory. Until then, we'll see you from Richmond in 1 week time.